So I'm going to be trying something new here. A review in 3 acts. Well, 4 if you count this little intro segment here, but we'll get into that. And before we do, I'd be remiss not to remind you to like and subscribe for more content like this in the future because analytics tell me that we should be reminding you at the beginning of the video, not the end. I know it doesn't make much sense to me, but hey, it is what it is. But what content are you even providing, you ask? I haven't seen the video. What am I getting myself into? Big questions right out the gate. So let me set the stage. There are a few franchises that I will throw my money at the mere mention of a new title. 3 of those just happen to be Armored Core, Dragon's Dogma, and Freedom Wars. Anytime I hear the word custom or customize in the same sentence with mech, you have my attention. I'm also a sucker for customizable companions. So when I heard about SYNDUALITY, my ears perked up. Now, supposedly this is an extraction shooter, and honestly, I've never played one before, but on paper, the idea appeals to me. That's right, I'm recording this before the game even launches. What you're hearing right now is the ghost of Adam Past, and he is excited. So this is how it's going to go down. I'm going to play the game and record my thoughts on it as I work my way through. Currently, my plan is to check in at 2, 10, and 50 hours, though if I'm crunched for time, I may do 2, 10, and 20. So yes, you'll be getting my review in real time. Well, semi-real time. Montage time. And that's the plan. Also, I'd like to give you a heads up. Because I'm doing this in stages, you may notice a difference in quality at some point as I'm scheduled to get a new mic here soon. Well, an old new mic. It's new to me. Technically, it's Korean's old mic. He's the one with the new mic. But anyway, we've had comments about my audio quality before, so hopefully we'll get an improvement there. And if not, who knows? Maybe someday I'll save up enough to make a proper recording space of my computer room. Fingers crossed. Alright, but enough of that. It's time to start getting into the review. So I'm going to see you guys again in about 2 hours or so. Bandai Namco! Alright, so Bandai Namco and I do this cute little bit where they lie about language options and then I go and apply for a refund. If I have time, I'll make another video and I'll tell you all about it. But right now, just know that I am 6 days behind schedule and just got to play. And I am 2 hours in, so yay! Update time! And so far, so good. Now, there's a lot to go through, so bear with me. This will likely be the longest segment, but I do feel it kind of needs to be said to set the stage and familiarize you with some of the terms I'll be throwing around. Don't worry. I'm not doing a Stellar Blade level breakdown today, but it's not really that kind of a game anyway, and it looks like they are coming out with an anime, so if you really want to check out the story, go ahead, check that out. I probably will too. Today, we're just going to be kind of covering the basics. So, long story short, it's the future, and at some point between then and now, the world completely fell apart. Turns out there's a special kind of rain that is pretty nasty to humans, but harmless to other wildlife. Although strange creatures called Enders did start showing up, so humans have to live in special cities which require these things called AO crystals to keep up and running. And that's where you come in. You're set up with a mech called a cradle coffin and paired with an android called a magus to get out there and bring back the supplies necessary for your city's survival. Got all that? Good. So right off the bat, this game does not take itself too seriously. Think Fallout, but instead of over-the-top classic Americana, it's more anime Running Man. Like, the situation and content is pretty dire, but it's all presented through this lighthearted, stuffed little rabbit worm with the voice of a game show host.
Those rotten enders, huh? Check out these tips to put them in their place.
Am I digging it? Yeah, actually, I kind of am. Anyway, moving on to gameplay. I was actually honestly pleased with Magus customization. I was really expecting that it was just going to be that one model that we see from all the promotional material, and we would just be making a few tweaks to that. But we're actually given 2 flavors of waifu and 2 flavors of husbando each, which we get to augment with a few sliders and palette swaps. It's no Black Desert Online or even Freedom Wars, but it is a notch above Baldur's Gate. Now, would I have liked more? Absolutely. I particularly would have liked more color options all around, but, you know, it is what it is. And when you're customizing them, you also get to pick a specialization for your magus, which is fun. So it seems that they can specialize in weather awareness, which we'll get into later, repair, offense against biological enemies, offense against other cradles, and defense. Now, you can only choose one specialization, and you can't change it without buying a reconstruction ticket or whatever they're called, so choose wisely. However, in the sortie prep menu, there's also the option to swap your Magus out. It looks like you may be able to pick up another Magus or two, but I think you'll need to put down a little real-world money to do it, because they're on offer in the cash shop, which, side note, there are 6 models in the cash shop. You start with 4, but there are 6 in the cash shop, being the 4 original that you can choose from, and then 2 extra flavors of Lolly, which, honestly, I don't really see a huge difference between the Noir, Mystery, and Growl Maguses. Magi, whatever the plural is. Maybe I'm just not the target audience here? Maybe. But anyway, Magus is done. You're off to the races. So basically, you have 3 stats that you're going to need to keep track of. Your battery, your weather resistance, and your health. Now, health, pretty self-explanatory. Battery is how long you can be out before you have to return to base. So it's basically a timer for your mission. And weather resistance is basically your shield against the aforementioned bad rain, which randomly sweeps the map. Now, once all that is gone, you're going to take direct damage from the rain. Lucky for me, I made a Weather Girl Magus, so she's going to keep track of when and where it rains, as well as provide a cover shield to protect me when it does. Right. Each Magus specialty comes with a charged alt that helps in their respective fields. So there's the aforementioned Umbrella Shield. In the training, you get to use one that has a multi-attack. I'm pretty sure one just has a built-in repair feature. Not really sure what the other 2 do, though. So anyway, the basic loop is you head out, collect resources, then head back home to cash in. Now, beyond the limitation of time, you also have the limitation of weight. So once you're topped off, it's best to just head back home. And fun fact, your weight actually will affect your performance. So your cradle can spend energy to boost, kind of like an armored core, except there's no flying. It's just the ground boosting. You can also use that energy for dodging and jumping. And the heavier you are, the faster your energy is going to deplete when you do those things. Now, I'm on board with that. I just kind of wish it didn't lock you out of jump completely, because I am always getting caught on tiny little rocks at the worst possible times. And of course, this being an extraction shooter, if you die, you lose everything that you had equipped. Now, guns and ammo are affordable enough to replace, but cradle prices do seem a bit high. Now, take that with a grain of salt. This is my first extraction shooter, so I really don't have anything to base this on. I did play Dust 514 back in the day, which had a similar play well, invest, play better, play badly, lose money, 2 steps back kind of scheme. But that was a long time ago, and it was a little bit different. So here I'm making on average about 5 to 10,000 credits a sortie, assuming I survive. And at about 10 minutes each, that would take about 9 sorties or an hour and a half, not including your garage time, to replace a full cradle. Now, that might not seem like much, but you do really feel it when you get set back. You can get insurance, but it'll only refund you a portion of the cost of an item, not the item itself. Now, you can retrieve it if you go back to where you died and try to salvage your old cradle, but there's no guarantee it's going to still be there because other people can raid it too. And so far, I've only managed to retrieve my gear once. I've died 3 times. The other 2 times, by the time I got back, there was just nothing there, which does lead me to one gripe. If you die, it's going to mark your location on the map, which is great when you're trying to receive your stuff because now you know, that's where I died, let me just go back there. But it's not so great when there's nothing to retrieve. Now, if you haven't been to that place again, it makes sense, but there's no way to clear the nodes, or at least not any way that I know of. So it looks like my map is going to slowly fill up with these glowing dots reminding me of my failures, but having no practical use because right now it's still pretty easy for me to remember which of those nodes is my most recent death site. But I am a little bit worried that as the map fills up, it's going to be a little bit harder and a bit of a pain trying to recall exactly which one was where I died. And then, if I want to retrieve my stuff, I know which node to go to, and I'm not going to this other node that I died to a long time ago, and there's clearly nothing there. It's not a huge deal, But for me personally, I just really like a clean map. So if there was a way to clear that, I would love it. It also seems so far that paint is tied to the cradle part itself. There are three. You have basically the torso, the arms, and the legs. Now, I did see in the Battle Pass, there are some parts that have paint on them, and they're unique. They're a regular part, but they have a unique paint scheme. But again, if I have, if I can buy a basic part or I can buy the special paint part, and if I die, I lose my part, well, that means I would have zero access to that special paint part ever again. I know me, I will just never use it because, I want to have access to it, even though I'm never going to touch it. So I do wish that there was a way that we could, save our paint styles. Personally, I think, an armored core system would be the best in my dream version of this game. But I would also be happy with some Destiny style shaders to unlock. Again, preferably the ones that are permanent, not the ones that are one-time use. But if we could do that, I feel like that would be great, that you could still customize your mech, even if you're using the basic parts. You still have a little bit of personality into them. So I'd really like to see that. Maybe they'll add it later. I don't know. But also, I do feel that the weapon offering is a bit lacking. So early on, I think it's even the first node of the Battle Pass, you unlock a sniper rifle. And later on, I don't know how I got it, but somehow I found a submachine gun that did physical damage. But I did end up losing both of them when I died one time. And now I have zero means of getting any kind of replacement for either. I can't craft anything yet, and everything in the shop is energy-based with no sniper options at all. And that kind of sucks, because I have a quest to kill 10 enemies with physical damage, but I just have no way of dealing it because there are no weapons offered to me that deal physical damage. Now, I don't know, maybe I could use melee, but I'm not really sure. I guess I'll have to try that out and see. But as of now, I can't buy another sniper rifle. That's gone until who knows when. And I have not found any other physical weapons, shotgun, submachine gun, assault rifle, anything. So I do kind of wish that I had at least the option to buy a basic model of each type, but it is what it is. And small gripes aside, I am actually having fun. So I am enjoying it so far. Now, progress has been pretty quick, but I am in the early game, and that's how it always works in these kind of games, right? They, give you a really fast boost, so you feel like you're making a lot of progress, and then it slows down to a drip feed. So more on that in a bit. I'm going to play another 8 hours. I'll check in again at 10, and I'll let you know how I'm feeling then. Maybe it's still pretty fast. Maybe it's slowing down a little bit. Maybe it's slowing down a lot. So we'll get to that, and we'll see then. So check in with you guys again soon. All right, we're back. I am now 10 plus hours in, and I am still having fun. I'm doing a lot better, not dying nearly as much as I was before. But first things first, when I started the game, I was playing in English, but I did switch to Japanese, just to hear it out. And ultimately, I ended up switching back to English.
We've been bested by other drifters here time and again. Let's turn the tide today.
Now, when it comes to language settings, I am the kind of person who usually likes to do the language that matches where the game takes place, not necessarily where it's made. For example, Cyberpunk Edgerunners was, created in Japan, but I went with the dub because it's set in Night City, which is located in the former US, whereas Ghost of Tsushima, which was made by an American company, is set in Japan, so I used Japanese. Now, there are obvious exceptions. For example, I played Persona 5 in English. Don't ask me why, I just did. Also, I did not play The Witcher 3 in Polish. I did honestly try, but, I don't know. It just wasn't jiving with me. Maybe I was just already familiar with the English cast. Maybe that's why. Same with Final Fantasy. Always do English. I don't know. That's just how I am. Now, when it's vague, I do typically try to go with the aesthetic, which is why I played Stellar Blade in Korean. Hard to put it in exact words, but if you're familiar with Korean games or animation or manhwa, you probably understand what I mean when I say it looks very Korean. Like, I can't put an exact description of it, but I don't know. It's like a vibe, I guess. But anyway, I did like the Japanese, but ultimately I ended up switching back to English because, while I prefer subtitles for story content, in the heat of the moment, it kind of helped to be able to follow the audio and stay focused on other parts of the screen rather than, looking away from my crosshairs and to the subtitles. So English it is going forward. Now, I still have no access to any kind of weapons that use live rounds. That is disappointing. I did end up looking it up online, and apparently the default faction, the Drifters Association, does not offer any kind of live round weapons at all. So apparently the only way to get them is to switch factions, and the only way to do that is to either A, kill 3 people, or B, buy your way out. And now that is with in-game currency, thankfully, but still, it's a hefty sum, and it'll put a bounty on my head, which means that I would be firmly in the PvP camp. And I'm a PvE kind of guy, so I'm not really sure I'm ready for that. Now, the advantage of being Black Market, Black Market being the other faction, people who were kicked out of the Drifters Association, they actually get the most powerful gear. So if you're playing PvP, then you are always going to have an advantage over someone playing PvE. So if you don't want to engage in that, you're actually always going to be at a disadvantage. Now, I'm kind of not sure how I feel about that, because that means it's harder to defend yourself. But yeah, that's the name of the game, right? I mean, I knew what I was getting myself into, so I'm not complaining. That's fine. That's what it is. But the question is, do I do it? Do I betray my fellow drifters? Do I join the ranks of the PKers who came before me? Nay, nay, I say. Not today, anyway. But since we're on the subject of shady dealings, so this is interesting. All right, so we're going to backtrack a little bit. You remember the whole thing I had with Bandai Namco? Well, I initially bought the game on my Taiwanese account, which was refunded when it turned out the language settings that were listed did not match the language settings of the game. Or maybe they do, I don't know. It still says they do, but the add-on content says Chinese Korean only, and when I called PlayStation support for the refund, I specifically said, do they have English? Because if they do, I don't want a refund. If they don't, then I do want a refund. And they said it does not have English. So yeah, so I ended up getting the refund. But anyway, I bought the game on my US account, but I'm still playing on my Taiwanese account, because that's where my friends list is, that's where my trophies are, that's basically where I play everything except for Final Fantasy XIV, which is account locked. But here's the thing. So my account region is Southeast Asia, and the game's region is North America, meaning that because those regions don't match, I don't have access to the cash store. And that might actually be a good thing, save myself some money, right? But here's the kicker. I pre-ordered the game, but I requested the refund before the game released. However, by the time the refund was issued, the game had already released. So the pre-order was canceled, but technically I already had the game. So, I shouldn't have access to it, right? But if we look at the PlayStation app on my phone, do I dare? Do I dare? No. And if I did, I would definitely not admit to it here. I mean, come on. But honestly, I am kind of curious, and technically I did buy the game. So, I'm just kind of curious if this would even work. Like, would it even download? I'm guessing no, but if it did, would my account carry over? And if that did, would it mean that I have access to the cash shop on the Taiwanese version of the game, and then I could switch back to the American version of the game? These are questions for another day, or maybe questions that will never be answered. Probably, honestly, for the best, I just saved my money for now, so I'm just going to leave that there. I'm not going to touch it. But moving on, as I expected, progress has slowed down, but not quite as much as I thought it was going to. So build times are increasing, but they're actually not all that bad. They're just a few minutes so far. I think the longest I've had is around 20 minutes, which is, like a sortie or two. We're not looking at 72-hour build times like Warframe here. Not yet, anyway. What's really the limiting factor is just supplies, which recently I figured out how to wish list, which is great because it means that when I'm out on a sortie, my Magus will highlight any wish listed supplies that are nearby. And that means I can better decide which supplies to pick up and which ones to ignore. Thing is, the game actually never told me how to do this. I've been trying to figure out the wish list since I started, And I didn't figure it out until finally I just looked it up online, and people were like, oh yeah, you can't go into the wish list and wish for things. You have to go into your crafting, and then you have to hit square, and then that will list things or add things to your wish list. So they could have done a little bit better with tutorials here, because there's a couple things like that where I just didn't really understand what I was doing and had to look it up online, and then online people are like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. But speaking of tutorials, in my last check-in, I talked about that little worm rabbit thing with the game show host voice. Yeah, he has not made a single sound since then. He has been dead silent. And it's actually caused a bit of a tonal shift in the game, because it doesn't have that kind of like, hey, let's get out there and kill some people. That whole vibe is now gone. Instead, I've been given access to the collection and a special set of requests that unlock story bits, and these are a little bit more serious in tone. But anyway, about these new requests, so it seems that these are the game's answer to a single-player campaign. And honestly, I kind of wish they had introduced this earlier. So the way it works is the 𝙂𝙢𝙢𝙢𝙧𝙩 Collapse Investigation Committee will give you missions to complete that are set on linear maps, and they actually have some story tied to them. Like, you'll actually get some banter back and forth. They'll even kit you out for it, so they'll give you a cradle coffin. They'll set up your magus with whichever ability they feel that you need, which means that there's no customization on these missions. But it also means that there's no risk, because if you die, technically it wasn't your stuff, so you don't really lose anything. In fact, if you die, you can just start from a checkpoint. You don't need to go back to the beginning. Now, the downside is that you don't actually earn any money or supplies from this. It's completely separate from the main game. But what you do get is it'll unlock some database entries about another drifter and his magus. So this is where you're going to be getting your background lore and your story. You're going to be unlocking it through this mode. So all in all, I really did enjoy it. And these sections were a huge help, because this is where I actually got to practice combat with no risk. It wasn't just go out there and if you lose your stuff, oh well, it's like, oh no, I can actually practice and, get used to my dodging and all that. So this was a huge help. I really wish that this had been available from the beginning. Other than that, not too much else to report. I still haven't gained access to the second zone yet, so that's something to look forward to. Kind of curious what that's going to bring, maybe some new enemies, better loot, who knows. I also read that online, when I do get there, I will be unlocking my second magus, so that's exciting. I think I'm going to go with the repair one. I did do one co-op mission, which, side note, despite this being online and multiplayer, this is actually very much a solo game. There's no matchmaking, there's no built-in co-op. When you're out in the field, if you see somebody else, you can petition them to join you for a mission. But once that one mission is done, then, your alliance breaks up and you both go your merry way. So if you want to play with friends, you basically have to hope and get lucky that you're in the same lobby. Then you have to find each other, and then you would have to join each other's party, which you would only be joined together for one mission. And I'm honestly not too keen on that. I'm a social person. I like playing with friends. If I am playing solo, I'm looking for something that's a little bit more story-oriented. Anyway, unfortunately, on my one co-op mission, the other guy actually didn't make it. We got it down to the last enemy, and, he went down, and then 2 seconds later, the enemy went down. So we did succeed. I got credit for it. But, sorry, guy, wherever you are, thank you for your help. I hope you got credit, too. You really helped me out there. Thanks a lot. So I do appreciate that. And so far, actually, everybody I've met has been really friendly. I actually haven't been attacked by... I was attacked by somebody one time, but I just ran off, so I don't know if they were actually trying to kill me or if it was just more like they panicked, and then, once I was gone, they were like, okay. I haven't been pursued or anything like that, so... Anyway, do I think I'm going to stick with this game for the full 50 hours? Honestly, I am having fun. But it does get kind of lonely out there despite the occasional mission, and without story to really grip me, I don't really know if I'll make it to 50. If I don't, that's why. It is a fun game, but I do feel like it could use a little bit more, I don't know, like life, I guess. I don't know. I just want more social interaction or some kind of story, with NPCs or something like that. So anyway, that's where I am right now, but either way, 50 hours or less. I will be checking in again later for a final assessment. So, you know what? Catch you in a bit. All right, and we're back some 40 plus odd hours later, and yeah, I'm actually still here for it. I don't know if you could tell in my last update, but I was a little bit worried I would be burned out by now, but no, I'm strangely more on board than I have ever been before. And also, small tangent, finally got the new mic, so that's here. So let me know if there's an improvement in sound quality, hopefully. But back to the game. I was originally planning to switch over to the Black Market, that's the more PvP focused faction, at the 30-hour mark, but they ended up releasing an update with a whole new map, and I heard that upon reaching it, I could get another Magus. So stick with the Drifters Association I have. And that all said, I am on the final quest to unlocking it as we speak, so I think I might pop over and see how the other side lives in short order. Which brings me to a bit of a point of contention. Grinding in this game has been a ridiculous slog. Case in point, I had a quest to kill a certain number of specific enders with specific rare quality weapons, which thankfully had been given to me as a reward for completing the previous quest. So I'm minding my own business, come across a guy sniping some gazers, wave hello, and then continue on my merry way just to have him turn around, snipe me in the back from point blank, and then finish me off with a single melee attack before I even have time to react. So, as an association member, on the PvP side of the game, time to kill is not your friend. And that's actually a bit of an issue. See, the idea is if you do a significant amount of damage to another player, you're marked cautionary. And this is to warn other players that, well, you've earned a reputation. Kill 3 players and you're kicked out of the association completely. And when that happens, you get a bounty, which means that if anyone takes you out, they're also going to get a bit of a bonus. So the more people you kill, the higher your bounty. And there are rank boards to see who has the highest. So in theory, PvPers are encouraged to build that reputation. And that's fair, that's part of the game, right? But here's the thing. If you don't want to be the very best, like no one ever was, you can game the system. So after 1 kill, you'll go cautionary, but you still have another 2 before you get kicked out of the association. After 3 successful sorties, however, your cautionary status goes away completely. You're a trusted member again. And even if you do get kicked out, you can just buy your way in, and now you're a trusted member. So apparently what some people are doing is they are gaining a trusted reputation, killing 1 or 2 players in a sortie, taking all their stuff, selling it, and then switching to the free gear so they can run 3 no-risk sorties where they just beeline it to the extraction point to go back into trusted status. And that's kind of a shame because it feels like there really should be some risk-reward to PvP, but as it is, it just seems like there's far more reward than risk. Also, if you do get attacked and you defend yourself, that will also put you in the cautionary status because you did technically attack another association member. All I'm saying is the system could use a few tweaks. Anyway, I got off track. What I was getting at earlier was when I got ganked, I lost my rare weapons, which I needed for a quest. Now, I could remake them, but here's the issue. To buy an uncommon weapon costs 9G. To upgrade that weapon into a rare weapon, you need 6 components, which will cost you 76G each. That means to get that second tier weapon, it's going to cost you over 25 times more than the basic version did. Now, you can find these components out in the field, but some of them are exceedingly rare. Case in point, I needed 3 Gen 2 energy management units to upgrade my weapon, and in my 50 plus hours of play, I have found 2. 2. I found more than enough of everything else I need. Heck, I've found more of certain epic level components. Heck, I've sold epic level components because I've had more than a few extra in stock. But those Gen 3 energy management units, nowhere to be found. Now, I've been reading online that this is a common sentiment that several things are jacked up to ridiculous prices. This is likely to artificially elongate playtime as people are grinding sortie after sortie simply to afford to upgrade anything. And it's a shame because you very rarely see people using higher than basic gear because it's just not cost effective to spend all that time upgrading it when it can be lost so easily. And from what I'm reading online, given the huge jump in price over the relatively small improvement in performance,
It's far more cost effective to simply sell anything you build over actually using it in the field. And that's a bummer. That said, it's a pretty easy fix that could get patched in the future. As it is, the cost of all the common cradle frames were lowered in a patch, so I wouldn't be surprised if this gets addressed in the future. Also, I've seen a lot of great suggestions on how insurance could be tweaked to actually encourage people to use higher grade components. So let's hope Bandai Namco listens. But anyway, I've pretty much reviewed the gameplay loop and whatnot in the previous 2 segments, so we're going to cut to the chase in this one. Do I recommend SYNDUALITY Echoes of Ada? Yes, but no. It's a complex answer. In terms of the game itself, I'm really enjoying it, and despite there being some admittedly significant grievances, namely drop rates, market prices, and how easy it is to game the system into PKing your fellow players with little to no consequence, but overall, the loop itself is quite satisfying, and I especially appreciate campaign mode. So yes, I recommend playing SYNDUALITY. What I don't recommend is buying SYNDUALITY. Outside of the aforementioned issues, looking online, the community does seem relatively small, and according to Steam charts, nearly 25% of the community has already dropped the game. Now, there is some hope on the horizon. We did get an announcement for Season 2, so we know we'll at least get that much, which does leave them some time to listen to player feedback and hopefully take some of that to heart. And they also did recently do a survey, so at least they're pretending to listen to us. But honestly, I've had bad experiences with live service games in the past, and this one, yeah, I can't pretend I'd be surprised if they pulled the plug on it at some point in the not too distant future. I really hope they don't, but let's face it, Bandai Namco does not have MiHoYo's track record. We all saw what happened to Blue Protocol. And it's a weird feeling because I really, really want this game to succeed, but me telling you right now to save your money, I'm actively working against my own self-interest. But that's where we are. So overall, great concept, decent game, iffy future. Can Bandai Namco turn things around? I sincerely hope so, and if they do, I will be here to see it. But if not, I'll still be here holding its hand until the end. So, that's it for this review. But before we move on, this is the Ghost of Adam future. And while I was editing, I noticed that, hindsight is 2020, and there are a few things that I would like to either correct or clarify. First of all, I said that you are working for the Amazian Drifters Association. That is incorrect. It is actually the Amasian Drifters Association. So this game takes place in the remnants of Asia, after society's collapse, people rebuilt, that's where you are. It is the New Asia, so it is the Amasian Drifters Association. And on the subject of pronunciation, I kept saying Magus. That is incorrect. It is a Megas, like a giant robot car. You see an A followed by a hard G like Magnet, Magnum, Magazine, Maggie, Magpie, Magma, Magnus, and Magnanimous. And you want to go to that soft A, but this is a hard A, as in Mage, even though Mage has a soft G. So I just wanted to clarify that your android is a Megas, not a Magus. And also, on the subject of paint, I have the free Drifters Pass, and in it you do unlock a few unique paint schemes for, parts, either, cradle parts or weapons. And if you do lose them, that's it. You do lose it. However, if you get the paid version of the Drifters Pass, not only do you unlock the painted part, you also unlock the blueprints to make that part. So if you did lose it, you could recreate it in the future. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now, like I said, while I was editing, I thought, I can go back and I can either edit those parts and change them, or I could just re-record it. But kind of the point of this was to do everything in real time. So I wanted to preserve what I originally said, and then instead do this little addendum here at the end. So that's why I'm doing this now. But on a lighter note, what do you guys think about this kind of review format? I noticed a lot of reviews want to get out quick, so the reviewers often don't get a lot of time with the game, or they wait until they're completely finished, but at that point they are very familiar with it. So very few seem to focus on the experiences while playing the game. The confusion, the concerns, the realizations, oh, now I get it. So I thought this would be kind of a fun experiment. Anyway, leave a comment if you like it, or if you think we could tweak the format a bit. As it is, I'm thinking 3 acts, but Maybe it'd be better to do shorter check-ins every 5 hours or so. I don't know. You let us know what you think. And since you're already there, feel free to leave a like, and if you haven't, subscribe to the channel to check out more content, hopefully like this, in the future. And until then, have a good one.